98% of the aspirants who write the UPSC CSE Prelims are not going to make it to the final list. Yes, you heard me right. This is because you follow a conventional approach where you run behind books like this or maybe this. But this is not what you need. What you need is actually this. When I say this, not exactly the book, but what you need are the PYQs or the previous year questions of the UPSC CSE Prelims. Hello aspirants, welcome to CivicCentre IAS. Today, I'm here to discuss a different approach, which is the core approach you need to follow to crack the UPSC CSE Prelims in any year, maybe 2024, maybe 2025, maybe 2026. But before going to the core approach or before me going to tell you what this core approach is, let me tell you what are the weapons or what are the tools you have to understand the demand of the exam. You have two tools. One is the PYQs and second is the syllabus, right? Are you in this with me, right? You only know what the PYQs are and you know what the syllabus is. So these are the only things you have in mind, in hand to know the demand or the pulse of the UPSC CSE Prelims or the pulse of the UPSC board. So it is your responsibility to use these PYQs more effectively. So how do I use this PYQs effectively? Here at CivicCentre, we follow the reverse engineering technique. Now, what is this reverse engineering technique? Reverse engineering technique is nothing but first try to understand the demand of the exam by looking at the syllabus of the UPSC Prelims and also the PYQs, which are nothing but the previous year questions. Now, what do you get by looking at the PYQs? Firstly, you will understand what are the themes or what are the topics which are asked in the exam. Then secondly, you will try to understand the focus areas of some particular topic. Consider some disease was in news, or consider you're talking about some particular disease. If you look at the previous year questions, you will understand only some particular aspects with respect to that particular topic, which is the disease are asked in the exam. Maybe the symptoms, maybe the preventive measures, maybe the causative organism as such. And if you consider like science and technology, it'll ask you about the technology, its applications, right? And consider any other subject. What I'm trying to tell you is that every particular subject has some particular themes, and those themes are going to have some particular focus areas. Now, your first job before touching any book for the preparation, like before 12 months or maybe it's before just 4 months before the exam, all you're going to do is first open the PYQs, try to understand the themes which are asked in the exam, and then try to understand that particular focus areas. By doing this, you will understand, okay, some particular topics or some particular themes are being repeated. So first thing you are going to do is complete these repeated themes. This is what is nothing but the core approach. So the core approach is all about starting the preparation from where it is actually needed rather than where everyone starts. By doing what everyone does, the guarantee that you would be or you won't be in that 98% or you would be in that 2%. So what brings you into that 2% of the people who are making it to the final list? What brings you to that is the usage of reverse engineering technique, and by studying your subject or approaching the subject with the core approach. Now, I'll tell you how to do this for the UPSC CSE Prelims 2025. First thing what you're going to do is, if you're starting with some particular subject, try to understand the micro listing of the topics. You try to understand what are the different topics or the chapters in that particular subject. Now, the second thing you're going to do is first take out the NCERT of that particular subject. For example, for polity, you have Indian Constitution at work, and for geography, you have physical environment, right? Indian physical environment and fundamentals of physical geography. And you have such NCERTs of class 11 and 12 with respect to every particular subject. So you have to remove that, take out that NCERT, read the NCERTs first. After reading the NCERT, now what you're going to do is look at the PYQs. Once you look at the PYQs, you will understand how far the NCERTs are relevant with respect to the present context. At the same point of time, your basics are going to be clear. Because NCERTs are such books or such sources which are released by the government itself, right? That is the first book, or you can say that is the official source of the UPSC, right? Now, first what did you do? You took out the syllabus, you have micro-listed the topics. Now, we have completed the NCERT. Now, we have looked at the themes. Now, once you look at the themes, you will understand some particular themes are there, right? Now, first thing you have to going to do is cover those particular topics. I repeat, the first thing you're going to do is cover those particular topics or those particular themes which are asked in the previous UPSC CSE preliminary examinations. By doing this, you are going to complete the entire subject in a very dynamic and a very relevant manner. Why do I say this is relevant? This is relevant because these are the questions which are asked in the UPSC CSE Prelims from the year 1979 to 2024. So when the UPSC is asking such questions in the UPSC CSE Prelims, it is quite evident that UPSC wants you to know those particular topics. Am I making sense? Right. So UPSC is expecting you to know that particular topics in that particular context, maybe in that particular year, at that point of time. This is what I wanted to say. So this is what the core approach is. You're going from the center to outside rather than coming to the most relevant part or coming to the finish line in a very haphazard manner. Okay. So try to take the micro-listed topics of particular subject, then look at the PYQs, try to understand the themes or try to cover out what the concept of the topics which are asked from 1979 to 2024. Now that you have covered this, while covering these particular topics, you have to understand what kind of events are there in news in the last 12 to 18 months with respect to that particular topic. This is because there are more chances of getting questions from those current events which are in the news. Because if you look at the UPSC CSE PYQs, every question has a particular context. Now, what do I mean by context? Context is nothing but the why the question was asked in the particular paper. Okay, why the question was asked in a particular paper. So, if you look at the UPSC CSE Prelims syllabus, you will have a first line called current events of national and international importance. Current events of national and international importance. So, there itself UPSC is telling you how important or how significant does it consider to the current events, right? So, when you read the related current affairs with that particular topic, you are covering the topic, you are covering the dynamic aspects also. You are covering the dynamic aspects also. While you are covering the dynamic aspects, don't just stick to the topic, but try to identify the similar topics which have been in the news in the last 12 to 18 months. When you try to understand such similar topics, this kind of approach, you're putting the minimal effort or you're giving the minimal time and you're covering the maximum syllabus, which is a relevant approach. So, now that you have took a chapter, you have covered the concepts, you have looked at the current affairs, you are clear with the concepts, you are clear with the current affairs. Now, take a test on that particular chapter. Or for instance, if you completed a particular paper or particular subject, take a test on that particular subject. Now, don't just take one test. Try to take 4 or 5 tests. Try to take 4 or 5 tests from that particular chapter or subject. By doing that, whichever you didn't cover in that particular PYQs or whichever are not covered in that particular current affairs, all the gaps whichever are there or which the people might feel they are relevant, all those are also going to be covered. All those topics are also going to be covered, right? Does it sound simple or not? So that's it. This is what you have to do for the UPSC CSE Prelims, nothing else. But do not doing this. Students always run behind the sources. I'm telling you, sources are nothing. UPSC might take a question from that one particular source that year, and people will start saying, okay, UPSC is speaking questions from this particular book. I'll go buy this book. And again, next year UPSC will give question from that, some other book. You will go to buy that book also. Ultimately, you're not doing. You're just collecting the books and putting in your racks. but they are not going to be of any use for you in the end. So the only reference or the only torchlight for your preparation are the UPSC CSE Prelims PYQs. Okay. First of all, try to cover the themes and the topics which are covered in that. And there are instances where the options of the previous year from that particular year and have been asked from the next year. The questions have been asked from the options of the previous year. So these kind of things are also happening. I'm telling you, clearing UPSC is not just about having the knowledge, but is also about understanding the demand of the exam. At the same point of time, having that presence of mind throughout the preparation, and particularly in that 2 hours of the exam, and particularly in that 2 hours of writing the exam. So by doing this, you are entering the exam hall in a more confident manner rather than the other 98% people who are not going to make through to the prelims or who are not going to make through to the final list. Am I clear? So all you have to do is follow the reverse engineering technique and use the core approach. Okay, now that I have told you about this approach, you might feel, so what if a question doesn't come from this kind of if I follow this approach, what if the question doesn't come from this particular areas we have studied? Let it not come. Who is asking you to top the civil service exam? You don't have to top this examination. You just have to reach the qualifying mark whichever is there in the UPSC CSE Prelims. UPSC CSE Prelims is only qualifying in nature. You just have to clear the cutoff, that's it. But you don't have to top the exam. So because of that, such 2-3 questions which are coming from maybe different sources, don't run behind multiple sources. Rather, you revise the PYQ set again and again. You try to give multiple tests. When you're giving multiple tests, you will understand what are the areas you are lacking behind, and you will be expert in handling the MCQs. That is going to help you ace in the UPSC CSE Prelims. That is what is going to help you ace the UPSC CSE Prelims. If this all sounds simple, if you are able to get what I'm trying to say, it's well and good. But if you're not following what I'm trying to say, you can join the CivicCentre UPSC revised classes. You can join the CivicCentre UPSC revised classes, where these classes are all about covering the subject for using the reverse engineering technique and approaching the subject with the core approach. In this particular series or in this particular classes, we are going to microlist the syllabus or microlist the requirements of that particular subject with respect to PYQs. We are going to cover the topics which have been covered in the previous year questions, and first we are going to cover that. We are going to take a PYQ reference, we are going to cover those topics, and we are going to look at the current affairs related to it. So this job, the job which I told you to do till now, we are doing this for you, right? So I'm again telling you, don't be in that 98% who are not going to make into the final list. I repeat. So I'm telling you, don't be in the 98% who are not going to make it to the finalist, but be in the 2% who are going to enter the Lavasna. For that, join the UPSC CSE revised classes. Thank you.